Hopefully this will be the final installment in the restoration series on this Dumont RA113. If you recall, in the last installment I finally found the problem with the tuning on this set. Turned out to be some bad mica caps and some bad resistors. I did a final alignment, everything seems to be working great. One last thing I want to tackle though was to deal with this candome resistor buried down in here. One section is burned out, and I'm concerned that another section could follow at any time, so I installed new power resistors. Now, they were kind of oddball values. One was 1460, the other one was 2140. So what I did for the 1460, that's awfully close to 1500. So I put two 3K in parallel. For the 2140, I took a 3K and a 7500. Put those two in parallel, you get almost exactly 2140. Now, I did not install those directly on the terminals for the candome resistor. Instead, I took little 2 terminal strips. One terminal soldered to the old candome resistor, and the other terminal is where I attach my new components. So that old candome resistor is completely out of the picture now. Alright, they're secure, they're not going anywhere. Wattage, no problem. I used what they stated in the SAMs, and I noticed that when I had this set running before, this actually didn't get all that warm. SAM said 10 watts. And for this, I got a 10 watt in parallel with a 6 watt, I think it is, or 6.5 watt. And these are two 5 watts, so that should be just fine. So, I'm going to get the yoke and focus coil, mount those back in the cabinet. And I want to take one last look inside that high voltage box and make sure everything is squared away. I thought my concern is that one of the new ceramic capacitors, one of the leads might be getting a little close to the chassis. When I looked at some photos I took after I installed them, it occurred to me that I should probably just push that part a bit out of the way. I'll show you what I mean when I get the thing open. Here's that cap I was referring to. So this leg and this whole loop here is at high potential, and then this is ground. So the original cap was rather long, and just a little stub wire came out here going to ground, whereas now I've got this whole grounded wire going right here, which gets kind of close to that. Set runs at about 12,000 volts, and that's 3/8 of an inch, so all I wanted to do was just kind of push it out of the way a bit more. May heat up that solder joint a little too so I can pull it away even more. Not that I've had any issues with the arcing the whole time I've had this set running, but you know, I posted some photos online and somebody pointed that out to me. I thought, you might have something there, so it doesn't hurt to just push it out of the way a little bit more. Well, I just spent about an hour and a half reinstalling the yoke and the focus magnet, the speaker, and finally the chassis. Powered it up and the set turned on, although that 15 kilohertz horizontal oscillator was really, really loud, and I could only get a dim glow out of the picture tube, really out of focus, just a bare glow. Nowhere I put the ion trap magnet had any effect, and that was with the original. I then switched to this guy, an Admiral. Really no difference. Slide it up all around the neck, up, back and forth, all around. Then I switched to that variable one that I had shown earlier, the previous installment, this guy. And it's, obviously I got a picture on it now, but it slid all the way to the very edge of the base. And I recall there being something in the service info about that this set originally came with a 17 AP4. Now this is a 17 BP4, and the magnet might be a little too weak, and you might have to have it all the way back at the edge of the base, although this isn't the one that it came with. But I also noticed that the squealing went away, so I'm wondering if they were fighting two different issues here. Because I also noticed that the shield on the horizontal output tube had come loose. It's the rivet down near the base. is really kind of flaky. So, see, it's well, I got it kind of braced up now, so it's more secure. So, I don't know. What I want to try to do now is power this set off and put the original ion trap magnet back on. Because I put the magnets like against a screwdriver, and they seem to be of similar strength. So I think the reason I had that totally out of focus, just dim picture earlier was that it was something else, some loose connection somewhere in the cell. Let's find out. It seems like I'm having the same problem as before, where no matter how I position this magnet, it's really not having much effect at all. What's weird is when I use a stronger magnet or the other magnet, for most of the positions you can put it in, you get nothing on the screen and it comes in really bright and sharp. This one, I can slide it the entire length of the neck between the focus coil and the base, and it has hardly any effect. But there is a glow, so obviously it's doing something. So if I take this off, the screen goes completely blank. Now, I have heard these magnets can lose strength over time, but I've never seen it happen, not to this extent. Which makes me wonder, how was this set working when they retired it? Well, I don't want to give up that adjustable ion trap magnet. It's a neat thing to have, so I'm going to go through my stash and try to find one that works pretty well. I was finally able to get a decent picture using the original ion trap magnet. I consulted the service info and they mentioned this issue. Turns out that the original picture tube, 17 EP4 that came with this set, required a stronger magnetic field than the 17 BP4, so this magnet's actually too strong. So they say the thing to do is to put it all the way so that's actually over the base of the CRT. It's also possible to get a bright picture by putting it all the way against the focus coil, but they say never do that. I imagine it's because this magnetic field will interfere with this magnetic field, and that's not good. Now, the picture's still not perfect, so I'll have to play around with these 3 centering screws. I also found out where that high voltage squealing was coming from. It's like I thought. The shield over this 6 BG6, I think, or maybe it's a 6CD6. Led me to, well, I wouldn't say the issue is necessarily that shield, but it's definitely in that area. There we are. So, I think you guys can hear that. I don't know what's causing that, but I know if I move this wire around, I'll make it go away. So remember, way back when, I noticed that there was electrical tape over that plate cap lead going into the high voltage cage. Well, that might be why. Maybe it was to keep that wire from moving around. I don't think it's arcing. I guess I can flip open the trap door and maybe try to see what's going on. There just isn't that much high voltage on that cap lead. Less than 2,000 volts, I imagine, plus that material that wire is going through should be non-conductive, so I'm not quite sure. Now that wire leads through and goes down through, I think a hole in the top of the flyback and connects down on the flyback somewhere. So I don't know. Maybe there's a loose connection down in there somewhere. I really don't want to pull this whole friggin' thing out of the cabinet. Don't get it back up on the workbench. I guess what I can do though is I don't think I've ever tested this tube, so I can pull it out and test it. But I don't think the problem's at the tube end. I think it's somewhere down in here. But you know, as long as I keep that wire stable and locked into this position, it seems okay. So I'm inclined to, well, I'll check that tube. Just because, if for no other reason, then I want to make sure it is a good tube before I let the set go. But I'll put maybe some kind of goo on there to secure that wire. It's funny though, the more I've played around with this, I've realized that It's just one minute range, like right in there. Just move it a smidgen and it squeals, but if I go to either side, it stops. Could be a break in the insulation. I've never seen something like that where just a minute movement of a wire causes the whole circuit to squeal like that. So I pulled out the chassis one more time and took a look to see if I could find the source of that squealing, and I wasn't able to. That plate cap lead was fine, no breaks inside the wire or anything, nor was it arcing to anything, and all the connections seemed solid. I did replace a 68 ohm resistor that was in series with it and touched up some solder joints just with the hope it might have some effect. And it does seem to be a little harder to make it squeal, but if you tug on and twist on the wire in a certain way, you can still make it happen. But obviously it's dead silent right now. So I think unless somebody goes in there and yanks on that wire, I don't think it's really an issue. Plus another guy who has the same set says it also has a piece of electrical tape wrapped around that wire to keep it from moving around, so maybe it was a known issue. Alright, so now I've got my Sencor VA62 hooked up, and I've spent quite a bit of time adjusting the ion trap magnet, the focus coil, the focus control, the yoke, and various linearity settings and horizontal drive and horizontal width. And this is the best I've been able to achieve, and I think that's good enough. I think the picture's still a little too wide, and the horizontal linearity isn't perfect, but I've got everything cranked down as much as I can. It was much wider to begin with. I think that might possibly be an issue with just because we have higher line voltages. I've probably got about 125 at the outlet right now, and this was designed for 117. I don't know, but I don't think it will have any noticeable impact on the picture. So I'm going to hook it back up to my cable, and let's take one last look at the set playing. Oh, well, one other thing I wanted to show you the multi-burst, so let's see what the bandwidth is like. So it's pretty good, it's respectable, but I've gotten better out of my RCA 630TS, which is kind of the reference design because it has such an elaborate video IF. So this is 3.5 and this is 4 megahertz. And typically pre-color black and white sets, you can still get some definition over here, but after all my pains I went through with aligning the video, I'm glad that it's as good as it is. Alright, let's see if we can tune in here. This is something in widescreen format, so it's letterboxed. It's something that isn't.
Hey, listen, fellas. They won't play tomorrow night.
And why not?
The paper says rain. Listen, what I come by to tell you about was an operation I had last year where I got some blood, see?
We're gonna put the fear of God into your commie son-in-law.
But listen, I don't want you to point no crew.
Alright, so I would say this is a success. And I'm done. Finally.
Money.
Now I can see the horizontal is not centered right. So I'm not quite done yet. Some of the channels with my stupid cable set up, when they encode these things, I ended up doing a double letterbox, so it's cut off both on the top and bottom and the sides. So now I can see that this definitely shifted over to the left. Well, of course I can cheat and I mean, that's all it was. They said it touched the horizontal hole and then jumped over. Alright, well, okay. Back to saying that I'm done. So looking back on this, there was some early speculation, including myself, that this would be a fairly simple project because the set looked to be well looked after, in good shape, maybe just replace a few caps, do a little tweaking, replace a few tubes, and it would be done. But no, that was definitely not the case. And this is illustrates why I'm not crazy in general about working on sets for other people, because it just takes so much of my time that I could spend on working on my own sets. It just doesn't pay that well. I mean, if it did, hey, if people would pay me the same rate that I make it work, that'd be fantastic. I'd definitely do this full time, but that's just not going to happen. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this lengthy restoration series on a Dumont RA113.
Situation has happened a number of times.
Yes, but not to Gilligan.
Well, the atmospheric conditions, the metal in his mouth, the shape of his skull have all combined to make him a receiver.
Is there any chance, Professor, instead of being a receiver, could we make him a sender so we can get a message to Hawaii?
I'm afraid not, Skipper. And unless I miss my guess, the position of his head and his body will bring in different stations. Watch. Open up, Gilligan.
Solid steel shower.
Again, fantastic.
Well, I'll be darned.
Your tooth may go back into position by itself, or perhaps I'll have to find a non-conductive substance to coat it with. Or maybe I'll pull a tooth. Well, you make the decision. I have to keep checking these weather reports. Still headed this way.
Which is bearing down on the Southwest Pacific area is...
Close your mouth.
And there will be hourly reports from this station.
You are going to have to stay away from this transistor radio, Gilligan. The signals you're emitting are loud enough to cause interference.
I'll take him over and show the girls. Wouldn't it be wonderful if our little buddy could be turned into a color TV?